Hi. All right, good Sunday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Rich Von Owen here with you from Weather Legends, and glad you're checking in with us this afternoon. And boy, it's been a weird weekend. This final weekend of March, I've got meteorologist Bill Korbel with me this afternoon. He wanted to talk about this, and I think it's something interesting, Bill, with this wild weekend we have. The temperature drop. What was that all about yesterday?
Wow, I was right. I bet you a lot of people were caught by this because mid-afternoon, I was hitting some golf balls in the driving range. It was about 80 degrees. And then the wind shifted around to the northeast and whoop, down went the temperatures. And we set a record high at MacArthur Airport, and then we lost it within a few hours. Temperatures dropped. Take a look at it. 82 degrees, record high. All of a sudden, our weather turned into almost summer-like around here. But why? Why did this happen? Let's take a look at it. So there you are. Yeah, wow, what a crazy day indeed. 82, and then down it went as the winds during the day were out of the west. That brings in the warmer air, and it was definitely warm. But to our north and east, it was a lot chillier. And that cool air moved down towards us from the east and northeast. And look at the temperatures of MacArthur from 1 p.m. when we hit that record to 5 p.m. with the biggest hourly drop coming between 4 and 5 when it fell 19 degrees in 1 hour. So if you were out there mid-afternoon just having fun with short sleeves and didn't have a jacket with you, by 5 o'clock, things had really, really changed. And then the cold air continued working westward. Now, the other thing to consider is the fact that, we've had this ongoing fire danger, right? Rich, you want to explain what this graphic is showing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is the Islip MacArthur Airport hourlies from the National Weather Service in Upton. And the green line is the relative humidity. That light blue line is the temperature, and the darker blue is what's called the dew point temperature. We talk about that a lot in the summertime. And it's interesting to note, Bill, that, when you have a situation like we had yesterday, look at the dramatic gaps and change, from one time to the other. For example, 6 a.m., you had a high relative humidity and low temperature. Look at that temperature. It goes up big time to 82 degrees around, 1, 2 in the afternoon. The relative humidity drops like a rock because warmer air can hold more moisture than colder air. And then you get this very dry condition. It probably went from like 60, 80% to like 20, 30%. And then you see the drop that happened, like you said, Bill, about 4, 5, 6 p.m. That slope just came down like a rock through the 50s, and the relative humidity went back up again. So it's interesting science there, how it works in the atmosphere. That's pretty cool stuff. And we wanted to show the
I want to go to JFK, but I'm going to say about relative humidity. What we really use is something called a dew point, but we'll talk about that another day. What the heck that is?
But that was cool, though. Yeah.
Anyway, there's JFK. This is even more remarkable. At 4 p.m., 80, 5 p.m., 81. And then as we headed into 5:30, it dropped 15 degrees in half an hour, a total of 27-degree drop in 1 hour. That is pretty remarkable. I don't know about you. I don't think I've ever seen a drop like that around here.
It's got to be close to a record, right? I mean, I think we've had some drops between 20, 25, maybe close to 30 degrees. I've seen them across the country. I think, Bill, you mentioned something about somewhere out west, right? Something
we'll talk about spearfish, South Dakota. This happened a long time ago. Spearfish. I don't know why they named a place in western South Dakota spearfish. I don't think there's any spearfishing going on out there. Anyway, it's on the foothills of the Black Hills. And back in 1943, even before I was around, there was a day where initially, it started out at 4 degrees below zero. There's something called a Chinook wind out in the mountains. When the air comes off the mountains and descends, it gets warm. And in a case like this, it was 4 below zero. The wind started to come off the mountain. The temperature rose in 2 minutes up to 45 degrees.
It's amazing.
Somebody said some cars and some windows broke because of the change. By 9 a.m., it gone from -4 to 54 degrees. But then that Chinook, that downflowing wind, stopped. The temperature then fell to -4 again in just 27 minutes. So that's incredible. Out west in the mountains, you get that. But around here, this kind of a change is a little more unusual. And the reason we go to the maps, you can see where the cold air was. It was up over the northeast. And it's something we call a backdoor cold front. Now, most of our fronts move from west to east with the prevailing wind. But sometimes you get high pressure building up over Maine or north of there. And if it starts to build south, it just blows colder air southward. Plus, the winds clockwise around a high bring in the ocean temperature. This time of the year, it's still cold out there. What are water temps, Rich? Low 40s out there still?
Yeah, I was out the other day on the ocean. We're being about 41, 42 out by the Ambrose, the buoy out there. And the bays were still in the upper 30s to near 40. So
Yeah.
it's
So,
cold still.
as soon as you shifted the winds from the west, southwest around to the northeast, that chill just moved in as that high built southward. And where temperatures were in the low 40s over East Hampton, if we can go back to that map of temperatures, in New York City and New Jersey, there were low 80s, 40-degree difference over what? Less than 100 miles. And that is
Something
just
like that.
crazy. So
Look at the
one of those
30s up
days,
there. Yeah.
again,
Yeah, New England.
I hope you weren't caught out there without a jacket, because it turned really nasty as the day went on.
Yeah, and this situation, Bill, it's funny. We talk about the battle of the seasons and the map we're showing here with the high in New England. We've been seeing this a lot the last several years where we get these little nudging highs that come in with northeast wind. You got to remember, Eastern Canada, there's cold air up there, Montreal,
Oh yeah,
Sherbrooke, up towards
still
northern
snow on the
Maine.
ground up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had some ice and snow. Vermont, I used to live up in Burlington, Vermont, Jay Peak area. I think Jay Peak, I was hearing, actually had a record, like some kind of crazy 400 inches of snow this year. One of the snowiest
Really?
places in the country this year. So, while we've been not seeing our big snows, it's been a pretty decent winter up there across the Tug Hill Plateau, the Adirondacks. Good ski season. And you're going to remember, we're not, we're far, Bill, but we're not that far where you get a regular system that can nudge that stuff in at any given time, especially this time of the year, and quickly change your season from summer to winter, like we saw yesterday, right?
So I guess March is going out, not like a lamb, not like I don't know what it's going out like. It's just easing right into April, which, keep your fingers crossed, will be a more spring-like month.
Yeah, totally. So we'll see what happens this week. And then we got some thunderstorms coming in. Looks like we're bouncing this week, Monday night. We're going to talk about that tomorrow right here on Weather Legends. We'll have a live show again, 2 o'clock Monday afternoon. We'll be with hopefully Joe Chaffee. Joe Ray will join us here, talk about that situation, and Pat Pagano too. But Bill, love your insights on this wild weather for this weekend. And again, this does happen, Bill, but this was just kind of extreme, right, with this temperature drop?
This was a bit of an extreme thing, but I tell you, through spring into early summer, you got to be aware of these backdoor cold fronts. They can really kick the forecast out of sync and surprise a lot of people. As you know, anytime the wind goes out of the east, folks, it's colder. Just remember that this time of the year.
Yeah, and 2 things to note too. I was out on a boat yesterday doing some stuff out of Freeport, Nautical Mile in Long Island, and I did not wear sunscreen. And I came home. I got a little bit of a burn. That sun angle this year, Bill, very strong, right?
Well, yeah. Right now we're about the same as it is in August in terms of the sun, right?
Yeah, and you forget about that because you think it's still winter, cold. You still have jackets on. All of a sudden, you go out in the sun one day, and you're like, "Whoa, what happened to me here?" So that can happen too, and also too. Robert Moses, Jones Beach, all the nice boardwalks, Long Beach are now starting to, get a lot of folks heading down there. Don't go down with a short sleeve shirt on the southwest breeze. You'll be very cold. It's a lot different down there. They always say it's colder on the water, right, Bill? Being on boats all your life there too.
It makes it nice in the summer though here, doesn't it? On the South Shore and the East End, that's for sure. Yeah,
definitely. So that's the time of the year, and it's what makes Long Island very, very special. So we'll see what comes around next, and I think we'll talk more about it coming up tomorrow. Weather Legends at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So just be ready for that. Okay.
Okay. See you then.
Thanks, Bill. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, and another good show here. Another good explanation, as always, from the master, Bill Korbel.